Okay, well, we might get started. Thank you everyone for coming along today to the launch of the Landcare Employer Support Program. It's great to have so many of you here on the call with us today, and really looking forward to a great session to let you know more about this new program. First, I'd like to respectfully acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands on which we work and meeting today. We are inspired by the legacy of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people as this land's first custodians. Today, I'm coming to you from Melbourne on Wurundjeri country and pay my respects to elders past and present. So the overview of today's session, we're going to give a bit of a program background and introduction. We're then going to go through some of the content and curriculum that will be covered in the Landcare Employer Support Program to give you an overview of what you can expect from this and future sessions. We'll then touch on some of the program supports, so the roles of the different players that will be delivering this program. And then we'll finish up the session this afternoon with a Q&A, and then the next steps to keep participating in this community of practice. So just touching on some housekeeping for today. We ask that you keep your microphone muted throughout the webinar. We are on a meeting setting for Zoom, which means that you can unmute, but if there's loud noises in the background, it can be a bit distracting for everyone. So we ask that you stay muted throughout the webinar. We will have the opportunity to put your questions in the chat function. So if you've got any questions throughout, feel free to put them in the chat. My colleagues will be monitoring that as we go through the session. Additionally, just to let you know that today's session will be recorded and publicly available for those who are unable to attend this session. So we've got a number of people who aren't able to attend. Future webinars as part of this program will also be recorded and made available publicly on the Landcare Victoria website. So we want to make sure that the community of practice moving forward is a safe space. So the future community of practice sessions that we will be delivering as part of this program will be confidential. So they will be recorded, but they will only be made available to registered community of practice participants. And so that is really to help ensure that if you are raising any questions or any concerns, issues that you might be facing in your network, this is a safe space to do that. And so that's just to let you know that that will be how we're operating these sessions moving forward. So my name is Anthony Gallagher. I'm the General Manager at Landcare Victoria. I'm also a former Landcare facilitator from a number of years ago, so I have a keen understanding of the roles, the environment, and the unique nature of employment in the Landcare sector. Today with us, we've got Josh Reid-Jones. Josh is a consultant with Not-for-Profit Success. Josh has been brought on to help deliver the program and has a background in governance, strategy, and leadership capability in the not-for-profit sector. And Josh is also the current interim CEO for Keep Australia Beautiful Victoria. So thanks for joining us today, Josh. I also want to introduce Lily Yap. So Lily joined Landcare Victoria today. So it's her first day. So be kind to her. And Lily is the program coordinator for this program, so the Landcare Employer Support Program. Lily has a Master's of Adult Education and is a trained counsellor and has previous roles as a wellbeing officer and a community of practice facilitator. So we're really excited to have Lily come on board to help deliver this program throughout the rest of the year and into next year. We also have Tani Burgess from Landcare Victoria in the room. Tani is assisting with our webinar logistics today, and they will keep an eye on any questions or comments in the chat. Additionally, feel free to put where you're from, your network you're representing, and which part of Victoria you are dialing in from in the chat. It'd be great for us to find out who is in the room and joining this community of practice today. So feel free to let us know where you are coming from. So, why are we all here today? So this new program is aimed at equipping volunteer Landcare employers and managers with additional information and knowledge to support their roles in hosting Landcare professionals. So we're really supporting volunteer leaders in their well-being and building the knowledge so that they feel comfortable in the roles that they are undertaking in supporting Landcare professionals. The Landcare Employer Support Program is funded by the state government through the Victorian Landcare Program, and we're very grateful for the support from DECA in getting this program up. Landcare Victoria is leading the delivery of the program over the next year and a quarter or so. And we've also engaged Not-for-Profit Success as an external consultant to help deliver on the content that will be delivered in this program, as well as any specific workforce planning topics, HR, or any questions that are arising as part of this program. So that's who we've got who will be helping to deliver the Landcare Employer Support Program over the next year or so. And I think it's important to recognise that at the heart of Landcare are volunteers and Landcare stewards collaborating together as groups and networks and collectives. And we're all actually part of a much wider system of a community government partnership that's been going for almost 40 years now. Landcare volunteers work with many different groups. So we work with public and private landholders, including traditional owners. And we are also supported and coordinated by local, regional, state, and national governments and bodies. And the professional part of the Landcare system in Victoria is actually really important. So Landcare facilitators, project officers, and coordinators, they are often supported and managed by volunteers and people who are doing what they do in the places that they love locally. And a lot of these professionals are considered the oil in the cogs that enable a lot of Landcare organisations to do what they do. So there's over 270 Landcare professionals employed or contracted across Victoria as part of the Landcare sector. So it's quite a large workforce that we're looking to help support. So touching on, I guess, the background for this particular program and the identified needs that we're helping to address. In 2023 and 2024, DECA commissioned a review into the Victorian Landcare Facilitator Program, a state government program that supports the employment of 80 Landcare facilitators across the state. The actual VLFP review and response findings from the department have not yet been released. However, the findings were publicly presented at the 2024 Victorian Landcare Forum in Bendigo in May 2024. And I'll run through just a couple of those findings now as it sets the scene for, I guess, where this program is looking to address some of the issues and gaps there. So the findings of the VLFP review in 2024 found the current system is working well, but there are areas of improvement. So what was identified as really strong as part of that review was the value of Landcare facilitators. So they are the glue that holds together a lot of the groups and play a critical role for the groups and networks. They provide expertise, skills, community engagement, and assistance in accessing funding. The review also found high role satisfaction and conditions. So most Landcare facilitators enjoy their role. There were many reports of good support from their groups and networks. The flexibility of the role was highly valued, and the majority of Landcare facilitators report ongoing learning and skill development. The review also found that there are success stories for different employer types across all types of employer organisations. So be that Landcare networks or groups that are hosting employees, be that a local council or a CMA that's hosting a Landcare facilitator, or private enterprise labour companies that are also hosting facilitators. So that's some of the key findings of what was working well. There were a number of concerns and issues that were raised as part of the review. Those issues related to work health and safety, and that includes lacking of systems to meet employer obligations or some safety and gender-related concerns and risks that were highlighted, and also some wellbeing concerns for facilitators and for managers. And a number of those are, I guess, uh, something that we really want to help unpack and address as part of the employment standards for across the Landcare sector. Some of the other issues that were highlighted were the funding, and so the funding available for that particular program mightn't cover the full cost of employment, more hours needed to meet the demands of the role, uncertainty of the funding environments creates recruitment and retention issues. And then there was some issues highlighted around employment conditions. So the salary levels are inconsistent across some of the sector. A small number of Landcare facilitators reported significant issues with support or conflict, pay, or work hours. And the volunteer time taken to employ and support a Landcare facilitator can be a challenge. So this is, I guess, some of the background and the settings that we're looking to help um, uplift and address as part of this program, noting that we won't address everything, but this is a step towards looking at some of those issues. So DECA have funded the Landcare Employer Support Program to help provide targeted support to the Landcare facilitator managers and employers of Landcare professionals across our state. The program activities include contract and expert HR and employee relations support through not-for-profit Success, delivering of 4 online webinars on various topics, the delivery of the quarterly online community of practice for employers and managers of Landcare facilitators and Landcare professionals, production of a number of written resources. So this includes employee versus contracting fact sheets and guidance notes, and we'll also produce some resources around the Fair Work Act changes of December 2023, which relate to fixed term contracts. And we'll produce a number of other written resources that relate to each of the online webinars that we deliver or community practice topics, pending on some of the needs and supports that are requested by participants of this program. So with that, I'm going to pass to Josh, and Josh is going to take us through a bit of an overview of not-for-profit success and also the content and curriculum framing for this particular program that we're going to be rolling out over the next little while. So Josh, I'll hand over to you.
Thanks very much, Anthony. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Josh, and as Anthony mentioned, I'm here representing NFP Success. We've been brought in to help with this process over the coming many months, and I guess the brief overview of NFP Success is that it's a consulting firm we've got over sort of 50 consultants around the country, fully focused on not-for-profit issues and upskilling and support. You can see some of the services that we offer here in strategic planning, HR, organisational reviews, committee and board training and support, and policy and renewals type work. We sort of cover the full gamut and have a lot of experience specifically in the challenges that are faced by non-for-profits. And through this process, we'll be bringing in people, specific subject matter experts when it gets a little bit pointed, particularly around things like HR and fair work. We'll be able to bring in additional people to support myself and the rest of the team here at Landcare to make sure that everyone involved is getting really high quality, awesome information and help. Myself personally, I've been working in the social impact space for my entire adult life across all kinds of communities. It's got a spent a long time in social services and housing, employment and mental health and also in the environment. As I mentioned earlier, I work at Keep Australia Beautiful Victoria at the moment as the CEO there, and I sit on a couple of boards. I've got experience in metropolitan and regional context, which I think is pretty important given the nature of the Landcare organisations across the state. And I've been with NFP Success as a consultant for a few years now as well. I'm really excited to be here. I love the work that's being done around the state. I've met and worked with many Landcare groups already in all my work days. So this is going to be a really wonderful process. The structure that we're going to follow as we sort of work through the upskilling education piece and also the dialogue that we're going to have with all the groups is that we're going to follow basically the structure of an employee life cycle. So the first webinar will be about recruitment. Then we're going to cover topics around onboarding and management, development and retention, transition, and offboarding at the end. And the idea of building this program around the employee life cycle is because it makes sense chronologically, but also it means that if you find yourself down the track, or if any Landcare groups find themselves down the track having an issue in a specific moment, or wanting to learn a little bit more, it's a little bit easier for them to go and find the correct webinar, the correct notes, and get the right information, as opposed to having a little bit of this in every session that we do. This puts a bit of structure around it, which is, I think, a really great structure, and it means that you'll have a lot of certainty about what's coming up and be able to sort of prepare questions and things along the way as well. So as we look at that employment life cycle, I'll give you a little brief overview of the things that we're going to be covering. So again, you're in front of what's coming up. In the first bit, the recruitment piece, we'll be looking at organizational planning and forecasting. We'll be looking at job descriptions, contracts, pay, and then ads and recruitment pathways. This is sort of a suite of challenges that have been identified in organizations so far. Obviously, getting people in is step one as an employer. We'll go from that into the onboarding and management of those people. Once you've recruited them, you've done a great job and you've recruited people, and how to manage their expectations and yours, setting up good communication protocols and cultural expectations. We're going to sort of discuss and interrogate a little bit the challenges faced between a volunteer management committee or board and paid employees, and where that might have challenges. We're going to look at the responsibilities of the management, and we will cover in that process as well the challenges of NFP management and funding cycles with employment, because that's something that was identified through the DECA work earlier, and obviously anyone who's worked in not-for-profit knows that's an ongoing challenge for all of us. Once we've got them onboarded and we're managing them, we're looking at development and retention, which will include things like education for staff and volunteers, how to do reviews and assessments. Those can be big, they can be small, they can be targeted, they can be broad, but there's a whole range of ways to tackle that. But it's something that's really important to keep doing, even when it can be difficult with a volunteer board or management structure. How to attract and keep funding on an ongoing basis. And also we're going to look at things like acquitting your grants and meeting obligations that way. Some of this stuff you'll be doing, and you'll be doing it well in some areas, and some people might not be. So the idea is that we pick up all of this stuff to make sure that what you know gets confirmed, what you're already doing well gets validated, what you've maybe missed gets picked up along the way. And if you don't know anything about a particular piece, we'll be able to bring you the good information and upskill you straight away. And that's why we also focus on the fourth section, which is the transition and offboarding, which will cover things like change in the workplace and restructuring, risk and information management, procedural fairness, employee exits, and your governance and compliance obligations. And when we talk about organisational risk and information management in the context of Landcare groups and many not-for-profits across the country, a lot of that is about making sure that the information that's often kept in the head of a couple very dedicated and long-serving volunteers or staff members isn't lost at the moment of them transitioning out or leaving or becoming unwell or any of those sorts of things. So we're looking at it in the context of employee-employer relationships and organisational management. It's not like a full massive risk assessment, that we won't be covering all of those sorts of things. And while those will cover the main topics of the webinars, the structure of this process is going to be a very interactive one. We're going to be balancing community of practice meetings where we'll be able to join each other here in a Zoom call, and we're going to be able to have a chat about what's actually happening in your groups, get feedback, have discussions, find out what the real-time challenges are for the groups that are engaging in this process. And that means that we'll be able to really target the webinars with information that makes a lot of sense and really speaks to the context that the Landcare groups are operating in. So we've got these two streams. There'll be the community of practice meetings. This is one. It's a little bit of an information webinar hybrid, this first one. But in the community of practice, it'll be very interactive. We'll be sending out questions. We'll be sending out little preparation emails ahead of time, asking for your participation to give us information about questions about what you'd like to know about. We'll be asking for success stories. We'll be asking for examples of when you're doing things really well, or perhaps when things aren't going so well. We want all of you who have been doing this a long time and know what's going on and are aware of what's happening in your community and your groups in particular, to share when you're doing stuff really well and when things have worked out, when you've found a solution or you've got good information. And then in the webinars, we'll be delivering that information in a way that can be captured and kept on the web pages, on the Landcare webpage, for ongoing training and reference purposes for everybody afterwards. So we really want you to be an active participant in this process. We want feedback. We want questions. We want to be able to have a good dialogue between all the groups. And what that will end up looking like is this graphic we've got up on the screen now, where we'll have the first community of practice about recruitment. You'll get some communications ahead of time with the opportunity to ask questions that you might have about that. Then we'll have the webinar about recruitment, which everyone will be able to see. That will become a permanent resource. The community of practice for onboarding and management, and then that webinar, development and retention, transition and offboarding, and then we'll have a little reflection and wrap up. So we really encourage you to participate in the community of practice and loading us up with questions and things ahead of time. That will be really helpful. Be really great. It'd be great for your fellow Landcare group managers as well. And also, we'll be sending out a survey which will cover basically just some workforce profile questions. And if you can answer these to the best of your knowledge, this kind of information is really helpful for us at the beginning. It's really helpful to get a really good snapshot of what's happening and how you guys are feeling about everything going on in your groups at the moment. It also means we'll be able to check in on how we've been going with improving any situations that come up that aren't going so well for you, and it will help us to sort of direct the information in the most relevant and useful way as well. So you'll get sent all of this stuff out in the emails, and I know it can be a bit of a pain getting things to do, and particularly if you feel like it's just going to sit on the floor somewhere and no one's going to look at it. We're going to look at it. We've got the wonderful Lily who's just started today as well. We've got this great point of contact. We'll have myself and Anthony as well, and that will be that'll be a really useful sort of tool for us and a great way for you to communicate your intentions and the things you'd like to learn along the way as well. So I'm really looking forward to the next 18 months or thereabouts. It's going to be really good. We've got lots of time to get through lots of information, and by the end of it, I'm sure we're all going to be in a really great spot moving forward. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Josh. We'll have time for some questions in a moment, but what I'd like to do is run through some of the different program support roles that are on offer as part of this program, so that you can have a clear understanding of who to go to for particular information, and I guess who's who in the zoo in terms of the supports for this program. So Lily Yap will be the point of contact for the program participation from your perspective. So Lily will be essentially undertaking the program logistics, any comms, really bringing in your feedback around topic suggestions and that sort of thing. Lily's responsible for the overall program delivery, including the delivery of the community practice webinars, and making sure that we can get some good Landcare case studies to bring into the equation for each of those sessions to make sure that they're relevant and specifically tailored for our audience. Lily can also take any questions and inquiries or intake regarding any topics or any HR, employment relations, workforce development issues, or not-for-profit government questions that you have that may arise as part of this program, and we can package them up with the the information that we're collecting in that survey to really help ensure that we've got a tailored program. She can also provide, information or referral options and pathways to some of the other supports in the system where we have them. So Lily's contact details are there on the screen, but we'll make sure they go up on our website as well so that you have them available for any questions regarding this particular program.
Hi, everyone.
And Josh will also be, obviously, you've heard from Josh around some of the sessions, and he'll be really bringing that program content and expertise, working closely with Lily to tailor the webinars and help generate the questions, the information and discussion in the communities of practice, so that you can answer any questions in session, and he'll bring in additional advice or additional people where needed to really make sure we can get the most out of those sessions, and putting together the written resource content as well that will go up on our website as a shared resource ongoing as well. So Josh will be here for the journey as well. Just to note that the DECA Landcare team have funded this program, and so they'll continue to support the statewide system discussions around where particularly the Victorian Landcare Facilitator program improvements might happen and those sort of things. But the DECA team aren't the point of contact for this program, Landcare Victoria are. But if you've got any sort of contract-related inquiries or other VLFP grant-related inquiries, you can still go to DECA for those types of things. So just a note there around their role in the system still. So as we mentioned earlier, there are a couple of written resources that will be coming pretty quickly off the bat as part of this program. One is the employee versus contracting resource, which is really to help articulate the difference between them and whether you should be engaging someone as an employee or a contractor. And then the second resource is the Fair Work Act changes to fixed term contracts, which has implications for whether you can keep an employee on for more than 2 years on a fixed term contract, or renewing fixed term contracts within that 2-year period, and likewise making employees permanent and ongoing, and any implications there. So there'll be some written resources coming for those particular topics off the bat. In terms of some of the other supports that are in place in the system, so Workplace Legal is a free, confidential, employment-related legal service and advice that can be provided. So that service is funded by DECA as well. There's a phone number there. So if you've got questions around how to write a contract, or some of those specifics around your legal responsibilities as an employer, that phone number there is available for free and confidential advice from that service. Additionally, there's an employee assistance program. So this is a confidential professional services supporting mental health and well-being for Landcare employees, managers, and family members. So there's specific service available both for the professionals and managers of Landcare Facilitators. But just to note, program is currently being renewed, and so there'll be a relaunch of that program shortly. But just to flag that will be in place and a useful service if you've got other questions, or if you're having struggles around being the responsibilities, or any other issues that you or your employees might raise. That service will be available. So before we go into questions, just to provide, I guess, the program scope, we are aiming to provide lots of good information and materials, as Josh said, throughout this 18-month or thereabouts program. However, there's only so much ground we can cover in these sessions, and so we'll try to make the program as tailored as possible. The program won't be able to solve everyone's individual issues throughout it, but so we're really aiming to address some of those systemic or system issues and gaps. But we will read through anything that gets sent through, and any questions and gaps and suggestions to bring them together to help tailor the program to make sure it hits the mark. So I guess in addition to that, not-for-profit success are available for additional service provision to help you through individual matters. So if you've got a specific issue that isn't going to be resolved in these sessions, or there's not an example that you pick up in the community of practice that you can take and run with, and you'd like to get more advice to work through that particular issue, you can get in touch with them to discuss their services and sort of do that offline and pursue that separately if interested. So we have left a bit of time for questions to really allow you to ask any questions that you might have about expectations of the program, any discussion points. If you'd like to put any questions in the chat or raise your hand, and we can help answer any questions that you may have around this particular program today. Okay, so there's any questions in the chat? So I can see that Julie, you've asked about you're going through an offboarding process at the moment, and you'd be interested if any of these resources are available right now. So Julie, this program's just kicking off. There are so in terms of the resources we're developing, there's nothing off the table straight away. But if you want to get in touch, and we might be able to direct you to other resources that are available online, if there's some specific needs you might have at this point in time. But I guess this program, we're just starting to develop the resources and the information and the program as we go. So there's nothing straight off the bat that we can hand you right at this minute.
It would be great if you document any pain points, or you sort of keep an eye on any of those things along the way, anywhere that you think might be a bit of a gap in that process in your own knowledge, and let us know. And then it means that as we pull together those resources, like, they'll be super relevant. So you're a little bit ahead of the game on the offboarding webinar, but it would be great to get the insights from your experience if you're willing to share them as well. That'd be fantastic.
So John Robinson, you've said you'd like to see under the onboarding item a handover from previous Landcare facilitators or employees, and as part of that. So I guess that management line and a discussion around the line management of a Landcare facilitator, including meetings between managers and a Landcare facilitator. So that sounds like there's two items there around how you appropriately hand over between employees, or if there's a transition process happening in your organization, and also how you can actively manage or line manage a person. And so there might be those responsibilities, and we can touch on that in the onboarding and management section of the program by the sounds. Okay, a couple of other questions that have just come through. So, Rose, you've asked, you're looking forward to some of the written resources regarding recruiting and contracts for direct employment. What is the applicable award, if any? There is no specific award for Landcare facilitators. Would it be a miscellaneous award 2020? So that's certainly one of the questions that came up in the review. And you're right that there isn't a specific award for Landcare facilitators or a lot of Landcare professionals, and so they may not be covered under an award. So that's some of the question that we can help answer in the recruitment and the workforce planning setup process in the first part of the webinars series. And so we can capture that as one of the questions to help answer in that part of the program. So, Marnie, will all current employers be contacted by Landcare Victoria with an invitation to participate? So, Marnie, we are circulating the comms for this particular program to anyone in the DECA database that is listed as having a Victorian Landcare Facilitator program, Landcare Facilitator. But we also are sending the invitations and comms for this particular program around to everyone registered in the Landcare Victoria database that has a Landcare professional on their books, which is about 200 to 250 organisations. And so the comms for this particular program will be open to anyone who employs a Landcare professional as well. So that invitation will be circled widely, but I would encourage you to share that the program is available to anyone in the sector who has that an employee. Okay, are there any other questions that people might like to raise around this particular program or expectations of what you might want from the program? Anything that comes off the top of your head that you think, oh, it'd be really great that if we could touch base on this particular topic throughout the program, or any questions about the community practice, how it will function, or the content. Is there a rough time for the first session? Yep. So, Julie, the first community of practice we are aiming to run in August, I believe, and I'll have to just check my next slides. Yes. So the first community of practice we're planning to run in August, and then we'll look to kick off the first webinar for the program in September. And then basically it'll be a nice cyclical, a bit of a cycle of webinar, community practice webinar throughout the rest of the year. And then there'll be a bit of a break over the summer period. And then we'll kick off again early next year in terms of that same cycle of community of practice. So that will take us through till approximately September, the end of next year. But we will send around the comms for the first community of practice once the exact date is set. We will, as part of the community of practice workforce survey and registration, we will be asking you to include the time of day preferences for running the community of practice. So we know this is at midday, we're running this particular launch. So the idea is people could have jumped out of lunch to jump into this session, but we'll ask as part of that survey whether you've got a preference for evening. So a lot of the webinars will be run in the evening, but the community practice session, we're open to running it at a time that suits people, acknowledging a lot of the volunteers may be, or volunteer managers may be working throughout the day, and therefore it's a bit of a stretch to get to a community practice session in business hours. And so we may look at running them in the evening as well, pending the results of that survey. So another question from Julie, does anyone have a good up-to-date contract they could share either for ongoing or casual employees? So I know there's a number of contracts on the Victorian Landcare Gateway in terms of the sample employment contracts. But if you need contract advice, I think you can get that information from Workplace Legal as well. So if you've got any questions there about the difference between a casual role and a full-time equivalent employee, you could reach out to ask whether there might be information available on there. John Robinson has asked, with the recording of this webinar will be available. Yes, we will put this particular webinar up on the Landcare Victoria website so people can access the information, noting that there'll be the registration process for the community to practice to join that. And then the other webinars will also be put up on the website and made publicly available. Julie, you've also commented, thanks for answering all my questions. This is very timely and very important support. Well, great to feel that we can be helpful there. Thanks, Julie. So if you have any other challenges or queries or topics that you'd like to see us address, exactly as you've done there, Julie, you can send that information through to Lily, and so that we can capture and help tailor the program throughout. The community practices will also be an opportunity to debrief after each webinar. So if you feel like something was raised at a webinar but it's triggered something else that you had a thought about, then we can also use the community as a practice to help debrief following the webinars and address those issues there. So really, it's a cycle of a bit of learning, reflection, and debriefing and doing that together as a cohort so that we can collectively learn. Are there any other questions that people have of us today about the program, the content, or participating? If there's no other questions, then we can, I'll just give a little nod to our funder. So DECA, the Victorian Government through the Victorian Landcare Program is supporting this program, and we're happy to stay on the line and take any other questions or answer any other questions or comments if people want to stay on the call. Otherwise, that's the end of the official launch of the program and the information available. We'll send around some additional comms after this and make sure that you keep up to date with that. Keep an eye out for the registration survey. That will be really important to submit to make sure that you can come along to the future communities of practice and help us to tailor the program. But otherwise, we're happy to let you go and thank you for attending today.